I want to pick up with the chapter, The Houses of Healing. With something we didn't discuss the other day. Right after Aragorn goes to heal Eowyn, and he addresses Eomer and tells him that it would perhaps be better if he spoke to her. Eomer cries to her, and she opens her eyes, and she says, I must rest a little. This is on page 868. I must rest a little, but tell me, what of the Lord of the Mark? Do not tell me that was a dream. And Eomer says he's dead. And Eowyn says, yet it is good beyond all that I dared hope in the dark days, when it seemed that the house of Arrow was sunk in honor less than any shepherd's cot. And what of the king's esquire, the halfling? Well, if you remember, Aragorn talked to Eomer and said what about Grima Wormtongue's words?
They scared away.
Yeah. That they weren't only for Theoden, he said. He said, remember what he called the house of Eorl, brigands, drinking in the reek, etc. Look at what she says again. When it seemed that the house of Eorl was sunk in honor less than any shepherd's cot. Okay. She's saying there, he nailed it. Aragorn had read it perfectly. Okay. She went off into battle thinking what?
Glory.
Okay, but what else? I mean, she was seeking glory, but why? What did she think had happened to, let's use some kind of modern terminology, what did she think had happened to her country? What do you hear people saying about the United States now, as opposed to 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago? That it is sunk. Okay? You hear people saying, our children and grandchildren will inherit a worse life than we had, etc. So, then she asks about Merry, and Eomer, Gandalf says he lies nearby in this house, I'll go to him. Eomer shall stay here for a while. Great gladness it is to see you wake again to health and hope, so valiant a lady. Notice, to wake again to health and hope. Health is a physical thing. Hope is what? Mental? Spiritual? To health? Maybe. At least while there is an empty saddle of some fallen rider that I can fill. And there are deeds to do. But to hope? I don't know. She doesn't sound very much full of hope. If almost her first words upon waking are, is there another horse I can ride into battle to die on? Okay. So, go to the last debate. They win the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. And Aragorn tells them what he did when he went through the paths of the dead and how the dead obeyed him. Trying to find exactly where I want to pick this up. So on 878, they're meeting in a tent outside Minas Tirith. And Gandalf tells them, my lords, listen to the words of the steward of Gondor. You may triumph on the fields of the Pelennor for a day, but against the power that has now arisen, there is no victory. Okay, he's quoting Denethor there. And then Gandalf adds, I do not bid you despair as he did, but to ponder the truth in these words. In other words, there is truth here. The stones of seeing do not lie. The Palantir, they don't lie. Not even the Lord of Barad-dûr can make them do so. But what can he do? He can perhaps by his will choose what things shall be seen by weaker minds. So what did he choose to allow Denethor to see? Right? That he has a huge army. So Gandalf says then, this war then is without final hope, as Denethor perceived. Victory cannot be achieved by arms, whether you sit here to endure siege after siege or march out to be overwhelmed beyond the river. You have only a choice of evils, a lesser of two evils to choose. Prudence would counsel you to strengthen such strong places as you have, and there await the onset. So, you can't win what? The war. A war is always won by arms, by military might. Gandalf is saying, we can't. We can't win this by military might. So Imrahil says, so you want us to retreat? To Minas Tirith or Dol Amroth or Dunharrow? Is that it? Gandalf, that would be no new counsel. Why? Because that's what we've been doing for a long time. But no, I said this would be prudent. I do not counsel prudence. What's prudence? Wisdom based upon the situation at hand. The wisdom based upon the situation at hand says, build up your defenses. Let Sauron throw everything he has at them. Eventually what's going to happen, however, the defenses will fail. And Sauron will overrun us. So, I do not counsel prudence. I said victory could not be achieved by arms. I still hope for victory, but not by arms. Into the midst of all these policies comes the Ring of Power. Okay? So, he talks a little bit about that and says, here's what's going to happen if the ring is destroyed. He will fail. He will fall. Page 879. And his fall will be so low that none can foresee his arising ever again. He'll be so utterly destroyed. He won't be completely destroyed, however. Why? Because Sauron didn't put all of himself into the ring. He just put most of himself into the ring. And his fall will be so low that none can foresee his arising ever again. For he will lose the best part of the strength that was native to him in his beginning. And all that was made or begun with that power will crumble. And he will be maimed forever, becoming a mere spirit of malice. And so, a great evil of this world will be removed. Notice what Gandalf doesn't say. He doesn't say evil will be removed. Okay? He says a great evil will be removed. Other evils there are that may come. For Sauron is himself but a servant or emissary. It's not our part to master all the tides of the world. Tides there means times. Okay? So what's Gandalf's point? What is our job? He tells Frodo at the beginning of the novel. To do what we can with what time we have. But to do what is in us for the succor of those days, of those years, wherein we are set. Succor, it means comforting, consolation, alleviation of pain and distress. He says, we must do what we can in those years wherein we are set to bring about healing. Uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live after may have clean earth to till. What weather they shall have, it's not ours to rule. Okay? Extrapolate from that to our world. What are the evils in the world now that Gandalf is suggesting is our job to deal with? And not say, since most of you guys are the age of my eldest child, your children's responsibility. What happens, as an example, if we let ISIS go unchecked? Will it just be part of Syria and part of Iraq that they'll control? I'm coming down with something, so I don't know how long I'm going to last. No, it won't. What is their goal? Okay, worldwide, maybe. But we can back up, I think, a little bit from that.
To control the Middle East.
To control the Middle East. But what does the Middle East mean to al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS? It's not just Palestine, Syria, Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Qatar, the Gulf, states, Iran. It's not just that. What's the caliphate he wants to restore? You got to go back, okay? About 1,400 years to when, after Islam was born and it started its move out from Saudi Arabia, how far did it reach into Europe? France, Spain, pretty much all of Spain, okay? And about southern third, if I remember correctly, of France. All of North Africa. And then pretty much all of the Middle East. Okay? That's the goal. The goal is essentially from Indonesia in the Southeast Pacific, Southeast Pacific, all the way over to the entrance of the Mediterranean to the Atlantic. Okay? That's the goal. So what happens if we do nothing? Syria will fall quickly. I mean, it's close. Iraq's already pretty much lost. Is it just going to be those areas in kind of south? No. There's a reason why Putin is sending troops and materiel into Syria now, is building a military base now. Putin's not a dummy. He realizes if they get complete control of Syria, what's north? Okay, partly Turkey. What's north of Turkey? On the eastern side? The Caucasus. The southern republics on the border of the Soviet Union. Former Soviet Union, Russia. Putin knows what's going to happen. The old adage that was used during the Cold War, dominoes falling. One domino falls, and what does it do? It hits the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Okay? So, it's in us to uproot the evil in the fields that we know. The problems of our time. Is ISIS the only one? No. What's Bernie Sanders running on? What's his main platform idea? And if you guys aren't into politics, you better wake up, because this is your world. I've got 30 years at most. But you guys have a long time still to go through all this. Quote unquote, income inequality. Okay? So what's he want to do? How does he want to make income inequality equal? Does he want to enable people like me making 80 grand a year to make 160 grand a year? Or 200 grand? Or $1 million? No. What's he want to do? He wants to take the 10 billion that Donald Trump has and spread that around. Okay? As fairness. Well, frankly, I don't care if you do that with Donald Trump, because he didn't earn any of that money. He inherited it. He was your typical trust fund baby. He inherited wealth. Yeah, he turned some of it into more wealth. But let's take somebody else. Let's take a Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates. Born to wealthy families, but not millionaires. Or even better, take Steve Jobs. What did he do? He went from middle class to bazillionaire. How? Because he stole from people beneath him? I mean, that's Bernie Sanders' kind of language. What did he do? He did this. He did this. He did your iPods. Those were all his ideas that he turned into reality. Okay? Is there income inequality? Sure. Are there some people who maybe make too much? Well, it depends on what you define as too much. Is there income inequality among, an individual job? Do some people doing the exact same job make more money than others with the same experience, the same? Yeah. Is that not fair? Yeah. Is life fair? Hell no. Okay. Taxes? Yeah, those are a problem of our time. But how about some of those things Tolkien talks about in the fairy story essay? Some of those things we'd like to escape from. Taxes is kind of trivial. How about poverty? How about hunger? How about, some schools have all the resources they need and others have none. UT, MT, hell, Austin P in MTSU. In terms of per student kind of giving, Austin P gets more than MTSU does. We're the largest TBR school. We get among the least amount. Go figure. Okay? So, Gandalf's saying, we don't have to solve all the problems of our time. We do have to solve those that we can, rather than pass them on. Okay? Every one of you who works, if you watched the Republican debate last night, one person made this one comment. Every one of you works has what taken out of your check? Other than taxes? Social Security. Social Security will be bankrupt in 8 years. Bankrupt. That means the money you've been putting in since you first started working, gone. It's already gone. The money I put in since I've been working for 30 years, that's gone. Why? Because it's paying people who are getting benefits now. Why? Because when they put money in 30, 40, and 50 years ago, how much were they putting in compared to how much are they now getting out? They were putting in pennies on the dollar. Social Security, look it up, is a Ponzi scheme. Okay? Where you get a whole bunch of people to donate so that the people at the top get huge amounts. Right? Because we've got people who are 80, 90 years old, my parents, who get Social Security, who did not put in nearly the amount that they're getting out. Because Social Security payouts go up every year, cost of living increases and such. So, what's Gandalf's point? Sauron knows all this too. Knows all what? He knows that this ring has been found again. Okay? He knows that if the ring that's been found again has been destroyed, he'll lose all his power. But he can't understand that somebody would do that. So, Gandalf says, he doesn't know where the ring is, or so we hope. So he's in doubt. Why is he in doubt? Because he knows there are some people who could use the ring. Is he afraid that Baggins of the Shire is finally going to wake up, put the ring on, and say, I am Frodo Baggins of the Shire, and I challenge you, Sauron, to a duel. No, of course not. Because he's a midget. He doesn't know how to control the ring. But we must at all costs keep his eye from his true peril. Right? As Aragorn has begun, so we must go on. Well, what did Aragorn do? Did he simply look in the stone and that's it? No. He made Sauron see what he wanted him to see. And what was that? Yeah. Recognize this? Cut your finger off. He probably saw, Sauron probably saw Aragorn a little bit the way Legolas and Gimli saw him when he first addressed Éomer, like an ancient king of old. He probably saw Aragorn as Elisar, Dunadan, heir of Isildur Elendil's son, future king of Gondor. In other words, the whole 9 yards, all the regal stuff poured on. So, what will Sauron do? He says, we've got to push him out of Mordor. We've got to get him to open those big black gates. Well, what does he need to do that? Bait. We must walk open-eyed into that trap, with courage, but small hope for ourselves. For my lords, it may well prove that we ourselves shall perish utterly in a black battle far from the living lands, so that even if Barad-dûr be thrown down, we shall not live to see a new age. What did Aragorn tell Éowyn? It may be the men won't come back. It may be that you will die defending your home, and there will be no stories told. Gandalf is suggesting, if we do this and we die, there aren't going to be any stories told. But this I deem is our duty, and better so than to perish nonetheless. In other words, we're going to die. Either way, whether we sit here and wait for him or we march out to him, we are going to die. Okay? And know as we die that no new age shall be. Is he full of despair? No. Because what's the one thing that can save them? Frodo. Getting rid of the ring. Is Frodo going to be able to get the ring, however, if they just sit back and hold their cards? No, because they've got to draw Sauron's attention out. They've got to get his mind and eye away from his own country. All right? So, they agree. We'll march on Sauron. Chapter 10. We get the Black Gate opens. And Gandalf and the others, I think it's total about 10,000 strong, march out. They go to the Black Gate. A emissary or ambassador of Sauron comes out. He calls himself the Mouth of Sauron. And what's his ace in the hole? What does he think that he has that will trump them? Recognize these? And he pulls out the 2 elven cloaks, the mithril coat that Frodo used to wear. And Pippin goes, oh! Shh. Because what did Pippin just do? He just revealed what those are is important to us. Okay? So, the Mouth of Sauron demands terms. Terms of surrender. Gandalf's like, okay, what are they? And they're pretty high. He wants everything. And Gandalf throws the terms back in his face. Bottom of 890. Gandalf says, these we will take. And he casts aside his cloak. White light shines forth. He raises his up hand. The Mouth of Sauron kind of freezes. And Gandalf goes up and takes from him the clothing It says, these we will take in memory of our friend. But as for your terms, we reject them utterly. The implication is Frodo's been captured. If Frodo's been captured, Sauron has the ring. Okay? We'll take these in memory, but we reject your terms. Even if Sauron's going to win, we're not going to surrender. Get you gone, for your embassy is over. Drums roll, and all hell breaks loose. Trolls come out, orcs come out. Last thing Pippin remembers is he's stabbing upward as a troll falls on him, and he hears, the eagles are coming, the eagles are coming, and he thinks, wait, no, that's not my story. That's Bilbo's story. That's how Bilbo fainted, in The Hobbit. And we get book 6. Notice, they're dying there on the battlefield. And then Tolkien takes us all the way back to the Tower of Cirith Ungol. And what do we see? Sam, all alone. He has the ring on, takes it off for a while, and he looks at the Tower of Cirith Ungol in all its strength, which was the tower of the Witch King of Angmar, the captain of the Nine. And Sam understands. This tower, this fortress, wasn't built to keep people out of Mordor. It was built to keep people in. Those who wanted to leave. And he thinks of the ring again, bottom of 900. And Sam stands there, and he's not wearing the ring. He's got it on a chain around his neck. But he somehow suddenly feels like he's growing. And the narrator tells us, top of 901, he felt that he had from now on only two choices: to forbear the ring, though it would torment him, or to claim it. He challenged the power that sat in its dark hold, beyond the valley of shadows. Already the ring tempted him, gnawing at his will and reason. Wild fantasies arose in his mind, and he saw Samwise the Strong, hero of the age, striding with a flaming sword across the darkened land, armies flocking to his call. All the clouds roll away, and what happens? He turns Mordor into a giant, beautiful garden. In that hour of trial, it was the love of his master that helped him most to hold him firm. But also deep down in him lived still unconquered his plain Hobbit sense. Well, what is his plain Hobbit sense? He knew in the core of his heart that he was not large enough to bear such a burden. Even if such visions were not a mere cheat to betray him. What does he know in the core of his heart, his very being? The one small garden of a free gardener was all his need and due. That is, it's all he wanted, and it's all that he had owed to him. That's it. Not a garden swollen to a realm. Okay? And when it says one small garden, it probably means a very small garden. You go to most houses in England, whether you're in London or towns outside London, and their backyards will often be fairly small, not much bigger than this room, sometimes twice the length of this room. But their front yards will often be a fourth of this. Okay? And the way it's often described in The Lord of the Rings, that's the garden Sam's talking about. The front garden, where he can grow a few vegetables, and that's it. Why? He doesn't need any more space than that. He doesn't need any more produce than that. And anyway, all these notions are only a trick. He'd spot me and cow me before I could so much as shout out. Spot me pretty quick if I put the ring on now in Mordor. All I can say is things look as hopeless as a frosted spring. Just when being invisible would be really useful. Okay? So, he's tempted to put the ring on, but something inside tells him not to. But later on he does. Okay? And what does he do? He goes on, skipping a bit. He follows the voices after Shagrat, and he goes into the guard tower. And he doesn't find Frodo. Page 908. So Sam starts to sing. Why? He's feeling defeated. He's sitting on a step. And it's all quiet. His voice sounded thin and quavering in the cold, dark tower, the voice of a forlorn and weary hobbit that no listening orc could possibly mistake for the clear song of Elven Lord. He murmured old childish tunes out of the Shire, snatches of Mr. Bilbo's rhymes. And then suddenly new strength rises in him, and his voice rings out. He sings like an opera singer at this point. And then he hears the orc again. Because orc thinks Frodo is singing. Okay? So Sam goes, finds Frodo, rescues him, page 9, 10, and following. Frodo's naked. And what does Frodo think? I've lost it, Sam. I've lost it. Sam's like, no, you haven't, Mr. Frodo. Pulls the ring out. Okay? So they decide they've got to go off. They've got to try to finish the job. Frodo takes the ring back, and they dress as orcs. They go into the land of shadow. Bottom of 918, top of 919. They're talking of water. They need water. Frodo talks about the water back in the Shire. And Sam says, if only the lady could see us or hear us, I'd say to her, your ladyship, all we want is light and water. He's talking about not Galadriel necessarily. Okay? I think he's talking about Elbereth Gilthoniel. Just clean water in plain daylight, better than any jewels, begging your pardon. But it's a long way to Lorien. It does imply that he is talking about Galadriel. They keep walking for a little bit. Frodo says there's a black rider over us, so they hold still for a while. Page 919. After the black rider flies away, we're told, Frodo breathed a sigh of relief. It's past, he said. And away to their left, they stood up, and then they both stared in wonder. Away to their left, southward, against the sky that was turning gray, the peaks and high ridges of the great range began to appear dark and black, visible shapes. Light was growing behind them. Slowly it crept towards the north. In other words, the darkness is seemingly being pushed back by the light. Slowly it crept towards the north. The billowing clouds of Mordor were being driven back, their edges tattering as a wind out of the living world came up and swept the fumes. Under the lifting skirts of the dreary canopy, dim light leaked into Mordor, like pale morning through the grimed window of a prison. Look at it, Mr. Frodo. Look at it. The wind's changed. Something's happening. He's not having all his own way. His darkness is breaking up out in the world there. Wish I could see what is going on. Well, what is going on? Look at the next paragraph. Theoden is lying on the Pelennor fields dying. And Merry and Éowyn are killing the captain of the Nine. That's why the blackness is retreating. Sauron is losing. Okay? The Lord of the Ring Wraiths had met his doom. Sam, what did I tell you? Something's happening. The war's going well. Haven't you got some hope now? No, not much, Sam. The closer and closer and closer Frodo gets to Mount Doom, the greater and greater and greater his despair becomes. And what happens? Sam's spirit sinks also. Notice the effect of Frodo's despair on Sam's hope. It's like a dagger in the heart. He looked at his master anxiously and says, "Come on, Mr. Frodo. I've got one thing I wanted. I got some light." Bottom of 920. To hear water trickling. Sam springs towards it. "If ever I see the lady again, I will tell her. Light and now water. Let me drink first, Mr. Frodo." He wants to make sure it's not poisonous. He said, "If I could have a little bit of water and a little bit of light, that'd keep me going." He's got them both now. Okay? So, they keep marching on. They kind of get stuck in a orc march. And they march off with them. And they finally break off away from them. Page 929. Sam says, "Gollum's about. He's followed us." Okay. Frodo says, "Yep, he is." Chapter 3, Mount Doom. Bottom of the page. Page 933. Sam thinks to himself, "It looks every step of 50 miles, and that'll take a week if it takes a day." He shook his head, and as he worked things out slowly, a new, dark thought grew in his mind. What's the dark thought? We're not supposed to make it home. The dark thought is to destroy the ring and die. The dark thought is you're on a bombing run and you've run out of fuel and you don't have enough fuel to make the return journey. Fulfill the quest. Fulfill the mission. So that was the job. Page top of 934. It came home to him at last. At best, the provision would take them to their goal, and when the task was done, there they would come to an end, alone, houseless, foodless, in the midst of a terrible desert. So that was the job I felt I had to do when I started. Help Mr. Frodo to the last step and then die with them. Notice, he didn't think that at the beginning. He didn't think my goal is to help Mr. Frodo achieve his quest and then die with him. It was just help Mr. Frodo. But if that is the job, then I must do it. But I'd really like to see Bywater again and Rosie Cotton. And what happens? Even as hope died in Sam, or seemed to die. Why is that "or seemed to die" important? If hope really if hope really died in Sam at this point, what would happen? Nothing. Nothing. He'd sit down and that'd be it. Right? If you don't have any hope at all, do you have any ambition at all to get up and move? Face the day? No. That's why people commit suicide. Because they have no hope whatsoever. That's why Denethor kills himself. He doesn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. All he sees is one hell of a black pit. Okay? So notice, or seemed to die. It was turned to a new strength. Sam's plain hobbit face grew stern, almost grim, as the will hardened in him. And he felt through all his limbs a thrill, as if he was turning into some creature of stone and steel that neither despair nor weariness nor endless barren miles could subdue. In other words, what takes over in Sam's mind? Come hell or high water, we're going to get rid of that damn ring. whatever it takes, it will be destroyed. Whatever it takes, I will get Mr. Frodo to those cracks of doom. Okay? Notice, his will hardened. It's almost like the language of tempering steel. You know? You put that steel rod in the forge, you get it hot, and then what do? You set it on an anvil, and you beat it, and then you cool it, and then you heat it, and then you beat it, and then you cool it. Again and again and again. And what happens to that iron? It goes from being soft iron to hardened, tempered steel that will not break, that will not fail. And so he thinks, okay, what's the next thing? He says, all right, Mr. Frodo, nothing on the roads. We best be getting away while there's a chance. Can you manage it? Frodo, I can manage it. Okay. So they go back on the road. Page 937. They march. They're thirsty. They sleep. And Frodo says, I can't manage it, Sam. It's such a weight to carry, such a weight. And Sam says, then let me carry it a bit for you, master. You know I would. Frodo, no, not mine. Says, no, Sam, it's too late now. You can't help me in that way again. I'm almost in its power now. What did Gandalf say at the very beginning? Any mortal who possesses a ring of power, no matter how good he is, ultimately will what? Be possessed by that ring. I could not give it up, and if you tried to take it, I should go mad. What's Frodo just said? I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do what I'm supposed to do. Even if we get there, I can't give it up, Sam. And if you tried to take it, I'd go crazy. When he says I'd go mad, he doesn't mean I'll get angry. He means I'll go flipping off my mind. Bananas. Sam nods. I understand. Okay, then let's make it a little easier. Let's lighten the load. So they get rid of everything. Okay? They put aside their orc gear. They put on their regular clothes. Okay? They keep walking. Page 939. Sam's talking to himself, almost like Gollum does earlier. Says, I can keep going on. Where to? Well, to the mountain, of course. Well, then what? Then what are you going to do? He won't be able to do anything for himself. Sam's like, shit, I don't have an answer to that. I can't take it from him. Okay? So you're going to die no matter what. Why not just stop where you are and die? And there's that Hobbit sense of Sam says, no, we're going to keep going. Bottom of 940. They make their way and they're on the bottom slopes now of Mount Doom. And Sam says, come, Mr. Frodo, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you in it as well. And he picks up Frodo and it's like he's light as a feather. Why? Sam thought he'd be heavy because of the ring. But he's not. Why is he not heavy? What does Gandalf say will happen to you when you become possessed by a ring? What do you turn into? A wraith. Wraiths have no weight. Frodo's almost there. Okay? So Sam carries him. They come across a path. Page 943. They stop for a minute. Sam lets Frodo down at the bottom of 942. And Frodo's hand immediately goes to the ring. Sam kneels beside him. And Frodo says, help me, Sam, help me, help me. I can't stop. The hands, trying to get the ring on. Sam lifts Frodo, draws his own hands down, etc. Okay. He gets Frodo around his neck so that Frodo's hands are like this, and Sam's hands are on Frodo, so he can't grab the ring. Frodo's legs are dangling, and he starts to walk. Wicked master! A wicked master cheats me. Oh no, we mustn't go that way, mustn't hurt precious. Give it to Gollum, yes, give it to us. Sam draws his sword. Gollum jumps away. And look at the description at the bottom of 943, top of 944. Gollum was tearing at his master, trying to get at the chain and the ring. This was probably the only thing that could have roused the dying embers of Frodo's heart and will. An attack, an attempt to wrest his treasure from him by force. He fought back with a sudden fury that amazed Sam, and Gollum also. Even so, things might have gone far otherwise, if Gollum himself had remained unchanged. But whatever dreadful paths, lonely and hungry and waterless, he had trodden, driven by a devouring desire and a terrible fear, they had left grievous marks on him. He was a lean, starved, haggard thing, all bones and tight-drawn, sallow skin. A wild light flamed in his eyes, but his malice was no longer matched by his old, gripping strength. He's got the malice, he just doesn't have the strength anymore. And Frodo flings him down. He says, down, down. And he grasps his hand to his breast, so that beneath the cover of his leather shirt he clasped the ring. Down, you creeping thing, and out of my path. Your time is at an end. You cannot betray me or slay me now. Okay? Notice, at that point, that's Frodo speaking. Okay? Look at the top of 944. Then suddenly, as before, under the caves of the Emyn Sam saw these two rivals with other vision. Right? A crouching shape, scarcely more than the shadow of a living thing, a creature now wholly ruined and defeated, filled with a hideous lust and rage. And before it stood stern, untouchable now by pity, a figure robed in white. Notice, untouchable now by pity. But at its breast it held a wheel of fire. And out of the fire there spoke a commanding voice. So this voice comes out of the ring on Frodo's chest. Be gone, and trouble me no more. If you touch me ever again, you shall be cast yourself into the fire of doom. Now there's a lot of question among Tolkien critics. Is that really Frodo speaking, or is that the ring speaking? The voice comes out of the ring of fire. Gollum backs away. Sam, look out, he'll spring. Frodo, farewell, Sam. This is it. The end at last. On Mount Doom, doom shall fall. And Frodo goes off, and Sam turns around, blade drawn. Now you're mine, you dirty little son of a bitch. Now at last I can deal with you. Don't kill us. Gollum weeps. Don't hurt us with nasty, cruel steel. Let us live, yes, live. Just a little longer. What does Gollum know? He'll die with the ring. Or, if the ring dies, he dies. Either way, Gollum's thinking, I have mere moments to live. Lost, we're lost. And when precious goes, we'll die, yes, die into the dust. And what does he do? He picks up the ashes on the path and just says, dust. Like, from dust thou art, and to dust thou shalt go. And Sam's hand wavers. I mean, he's ready to strike. His mind was hot with wrath and the memory of evil. It would be just to slay this treacherous, murderous creature. Just and many times deserved. Notice, the law would say, do it. Right? And it seemed the only safe thing to do. But deep in his heart, there was something that restrained him. He could not strike this thing lying in the dust, forlorn, ruinous, utterly wretched, completely destroyed. He himself, though only for a little while, had borne the ring. And now dimly he guessed the agony of Gollum's shriveled mind and body, enslaved to that ring, unable to find peace or relief ever in life again. It's kind of interesting that Tolkien puts ever in life again. He doesn't say unable to find peace or relief. He can't find peace or relief where? Here. And by writing it the way he does, Tolkien is implying Gollum may find it elsewhere. But Sam had no words to express what he felt. What is he feeling? Pity and mercy. Oh, curse you, you stinking thing. Be away, be off. I don't trust you not as far as I could kick you. Be off, or I shall hurt you yet with nasty, cruel steel. Why does Sam feel pity and mercy? Why didn't Frodo feel pity and mercy at the beginning of the novel? And then it wasn't only because he hadn't seen Gollum. That is part of it.
He was aware of the capability of the ring.
He hadn't yet experienced the full pull of the ring. Sam experienced that full pull there at Cirith Ungol, when he had the temptation to put on the ring, cleanse Mordor, overthrow Sauron, create a giant garden. But his plain Hobbit sense came back to him. Said, all I need is a little plot of head. Okay? Sam runs up, and he doesn't see anything. And then he does see Frodo, bottom of 945. Sam cries, Master! And Frodo stirs, speaks with a clear voice. A lot clearer than Frodo's been using for quite a while. I have come, but I do not choose now to do what I came to do. I will not do this deed. The ring is mine. And a whole bunch of things happen. He puts the ring on and disappears. Sam gets bowled over by Gollum coming up behind him. And Sam doesn't see this, but as soon as Frodo puts the ring on, Sauron, a couple hundred miles away, thinks, damn, and turns all of his attention. All of his power gets turned not from the battle outside his gates, but to the midget with the ring at Mount Doom. The power in Barad-dûr was shaken, and the tower trembled from its foundations to its proud and bitter crown. In other words, big old massive earthquake. The Dark Lord was suddenly aware of him, and his eye, piercing all shadows, looked across the plain to the door that he had made, and the magnitude of his own folly was revealed to him in a blinding flash. He knows immediately his life is on a hair's breadth. All his policies and webs of fear and treachery, from all his stratagems and wars, his mind shook free. And what does that do to all of his forces? It's like that one Star Wars film, you know, when you destroy the Death Star or the command ship, what happens to all the drones? They go limp. They have no power anymore. All of Sauron's forces lose the will to fight. As soon as he directs his will solely to Mount Doom. And what happens? Sam gets up. He sees nothing. He sees Gollum dancing around. He hears a scream, and Frodo appears. And we hear, precious, 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 my precious, oh, my precious. And with that, even as his eyes were lifted up to gloat on his prize, he stepped too far, toppled, wavered for a moment, precious, and falls. What did the voice say? If you ever touch me again, you shall be thrown into the cracks of doom. Okay? So, Sam goes to Frodo, bottom of 947. And look what Frodo says. But for him, Sam, I could not have destroyed the ring. The quest would have been in vain, even at the bitter end. So let us forgive him. For the quest is achieved, and now all is over. I'm glad you're with me here, Sam, here at the end of all things. What's Frodo thinking? That's it, we're dead. Because what does the mountain start to do? It's a volcano. Erupt. Okay? Gandalf immediately realizes what has happened. Okay? He sends Gwaihir the Windlord to go look for Frodo and Sam. Page 950. Sam says, yes, I'm here with you, Master, but do you think maybe we could leave where we are? Because they're like right at the entrance to the caldera of this volcano. Can we move away from the hot, bubbling, molten rock a little bit? Well, okay. Come on, let's go down the path at any rate. Very well, Sam, if you wish to go, I'll come. But we're walking to our death anyways. No hope, right? Okay. And so they get rescued. Now we're going to skip a bunch. The field of Cormoran, where they're all brought back together again, except for Boromir. The steward and the king, where Gandalf goes off and, finds the... Let's skip the chapter. Let's skip the chapter. Skip the chapter in the previous book, the Houses of Healing, I think. Anyways, Steward and the king, we see Aragorn get crowned king of Gondor. And then chapter 6, many partings. Okay. Many partings. Parting between Arwen and her father, because Elrond and all the elves are going off to leave Middle-earth. Okay. Partings of the fellowship, again, finally. But Arwen says at the beginning of the chapter, page 974, a gift I will give you. She says, mine is the choice of Luthien. And I've chosen as Luthien. I will become human, and I will die, etc. But she says to Frodo, you, Frodo, may go in my place. You may pass off into the west. Why? Because she says, you may find that you don't get healing here. Frodo doesn't really understand what that means, right? So they start to make their way north, and we see Legolas and Gimli break off. They're going to go look at the glittering caves, Helm's Deep, and then they're going to go off into Fangorn for a while, so they break off. They make their way to page 979 and following. They make their way to Isengard. And what do they find? Treebeard's still there. He's still in charge. But what has he done with the one little kind of command that Gandalf gave him? Keep Saruman locked up. He let him go. He got tricked. Saruman still has power in his voice. Okay? So they keep going on. He does get the ring, the keys to Orthanc, etc. So Gandalf, Sam, Merry, Pippin, Frodo keep moving on. And page 983, they run into Saruman. And Gandalf says, where are you going? What is that to you? Will you still order my goings? Are you not content with my ruin? You know the answers, no and no. When did Gandalf ever order his goings? Never. And is Gandalf happy with his ruin? No. But Gandalf says, if you had waited at Orthanc, you would have seen the new king, and he would have shown you what? Wisdom and mercy. All the more reason to have left sooner. Why? I don't need either. I don't need his mercy, and I don't need his wisdom. Gandalf, then once more, you are going the wrong way. Because what does Saruman say? I'm seeking a way out of his realm. Out of Aragorn's realm. Gandalf, notice, you're going in the wrong way. What's Gandalf really mean? Think of a one-word answer you might hear at a Baptist tent revival. What does Saruman need to do? Repent. What does the word repent literally mean? Turn around. That's all it means. Go in the other direction. Okay? Turn around, Saruman. I see no hope in your journey, but will you scorn our help? We offer it. Galadriel, Saruman, we're not really here to pay all that much attention to you, but say rather that you were overtaken by good fortune. You now have a last chance. Is it really the last one? Because if it is, then good. What's she saying? What is Gandalf saying? What are they offering him? A second chance. And another second chance. And another second chance. Why? Just like Gandalf said about Gollum at the beginning. He doesn't have much hope that Gollum can be cured, but there is some. Okay? Gandalf tells Wormtongue, you don't have to go with him. You can be freed. So, Saruman sees Frodo and the other hobbits. He says, so you come to gloat too? Frodo, no. Well, you wouldn't give a pipeful to a beggar, would you? That is tobacco. Frodo, I don't have any. Mary, here, I've got some. He's going to give tobacco to an arch enemy. Keep in mind, it did come from Saruman's stores. So, they keep going on. Galadriel, Elrond, Bilbo break off. And they make their way to Bree, to the prancing pony. And they hear things at the prancing pony that makes them concerned about the Shire. In the top of 996. Gandalf suggests, well, what you've heard about the Shire, Saruman may be involved in. Mary's like, well, that's okay. We've got you with us. Things will soon be cleared up. Gandalf, no, they won't. I'm with you now. I'm not going to the Shire. You don't understand? My time is over. In other words, I completed my task, defeat Sauron. It's no longer my task to set things to rights, nor to help folk to do so. What's the implication? It's your job now to do that. Okay? You are grown up now. Grown indeed very high. Okay? What does he mean? He's essentially saying, all the stuff that's happened in the last 10 months happened for this reason. So that you could learn to take control. So that you could learn to deal with the problems of your world. Okay? So we get the scouring of the Shire. They get back to the Shire, and what do they discover? Men all over the place. Big old gates on either side of Brandywine Bridge. Sheriffs. Okay? And we have a battle. They make their way to Bag End. And who's in charge? Saruman, under the nickname Sharky. What happened to Lotho Sackville Baggins? He implies he was eaten. By whom? Wormtongue, who was hungry. Okay? And we get to the very end of the scouring of the Shire. And pages 10, 18, and 19. Saruman tries to stab Frodo. Middle of page 1019. The blade turned on the hidden mailcoat and snapped. And Frodo says, "No, Sam, do not kill him even now. For he has not hurt me, and in any case I do not wish him to be slain in this evil mood. For he was great once, of a noble kind that we should not dare to raise our hands against." In other words, it's not our place to deal with him. He has fallen and his cure is beyond us, but I would still spare him in the hope that he may find it. He sounds like Gandalf. Saruman, you've grown, halfling, you've grown very much. You are wise and cruel. You've robbed my revenge of sweetness, and now I must go hence in bitterness. Notice, in debt to your mercy. It's almost like Saruman was attempting suicide by cop. You know, when people who don't have the wherewithal to kill themselves go and challenge a cop to force the cop to kill them. Happens all the time. Saruman wants to die. Frodo doesn't allow it. Well, I'll go and trouble you no more, but do not expect me to wish you health and long life. You will have neither. Okay? Frodo again, as Gandalf did before, tells Wormtongue, you don't need to go with him. You can leave. And that's when he says, you know, it's not Wormtongue eating Lotho. So what happens? Wormtongue takes a knife, kills Saruman, and before Frodo can say anything, the hobbits kill Wormtongue. Okay? Chapter 9, last chapter. Years go by. Sam gets married. Everything's going well. Bottom of 1025. It's October. And Sam asks, "What's the matter, Mr. Frodo?" "I am wounded. Wounded, it will never really heal." He got up, turn seemed to pass, quiet himself the next day. Afterwards, Sam remembers. October the 6th. Oh, yeah. It's when Frodo was stabbed on Weathertop. Okay? Time goes on. 1429 comes and goes. In other words, years pass. Frodo finishes his little book. Okay? And they go off for a ride in the woods. And they make their way to the Grey Havens, where they meet up again with Gandalf and Galadriel and Bilbo, who's now 130, past the old Took. Okay? So, from the opening of the novel, when Bilbo turned 111, to now, 19 years have gone by. Okay? Every year, October 6th, Frodo still is in pain. And they're all, Gandalf, Bilbo, Frodo, Galadriel, etc., they're all going off to the west. Sam's there all alone, except Merry and Pippin ride up. Because Gandalf doesn't think it'd be a good idea for Sam to have to make that ride home all by himself. And look how the novel ends. Page 1031. Even before then, Sam says, "But Mr. Frodo, I thought we were going to live, happily ever after." And what does Frodo tell him? Hold on. Frodo says, 1029, "I have been too deeply hurt, Sam. I tried to save the Shire, and it has been saved, but not for me. It must often be so, Sam, when things are in danger. Someone has to give them up, lose them, so that others may keep them." That's that idea of, even in the face of much evidence to the contrary from the fairy story essay. Yeah, some people are going to die in battle so that others can live. But you're my heir. Everything I had and might have, I leave to you. Your part of the story goes on. Okay? Well, how does Sam's story go on? Look at the closing words. He rides home. He went on, and there was yellow light and fire within. He's looking through the windows of Bag End. The evening meal was ready, and he was expected. Rose drew him in. It's like she's waiting at the door. And he comes, and she kind of draws him into the house and does what? Sets him in his nice big chair by the fire, puts his little daughter upon his lap. And Sam draws a deep breath. And I don't think that's necessarily just a deep breath. I think it's a kind of that relieving sigh. It says, well, I'm back. Back for what? Back for the next day. Back for the rest of his life. Because Sam does get the proverbial happy ending. Why? Who's the hero? Is it Frodo? No, it's not, because Frodo fails. In one of the letters, Tolkien says Sam is the hero of the Lord of the Rings. Why? Should Sam really even go on this journey? No, it's not his responsibility. So why does he? Because he feels an obligation, a duty to his master and friend. He's going to help him no matter what. Okay? We'll stop there.